Hello everyone, this is Noor. I'm back with a new video. The last time we spoke about blood pressure graphs, we talked about the effect of epinephrine, norepinephrine and isoproterenol on our blood pressure, total peripheral resistance and our heart rate. Today we will go a little further and we will talk about the effect that we see in our blood pressure and heart rate after we give alpha blockers. Right? Okay, so here's the thing. This time I am not going to take the graphs out from the book. What I'm going to do instead is that I will draw the graphs out for you guys and we will see how easy it is to do that. Okay, so what did we say? Let's revise it. What did we say? We said that we will take alpha 1 and beta 1 here and alpha 1 and beta 2 here. So let's talk about epinephrine. So try to recall, it has an alpha 1 activity, it has a beta 1 activity, it has a beta 2 activity, right? But the important part here was that beta 2 activity was far more than alpha 1 activity. That was the important thing here. Okay, so let's talk about it. Alpha 1, beta 1. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Okay, because they have similar activities. There we go. We will see an increase in our systolic blood pressure. Here we said beta 2 activity is far greater than alpha 1 activity. So for example, let's say that beta 2 activity is equal to 2, whereas alpha 1 activity is equal to 1. So we will see a drop, one drop that will be equal to 1. Okay, so here the drop, for example, let's say this is 2. So the drop that we're going to see in our diastolic blood pressure is going to be comparatively less, which is 1, just to explain the heights. So this is more than this, right? Which means that eventually in the end we will see an increase in our mean arterial pressure. Okay, now what happens to this graph when we give an alpha blocker? Okay, this was before alpha blocker. Now we will talk about after alpha blocker. Okay, so let's draw our diagram again, our graph again. Write down alpha 1, beta 1, write down alpha 1, beta 2. So what happens? We give an alpha blocker, right? What happens? We give an alpha blocker, right? So even though the alpha 1 is blocked here, we will still have some sort of a beta 1 activity, which will cause an increase in our systolic blood pressure. Not as much as we saw here, because there's only one, the other one is missing. So we will see, let's say 1. This height is going to be equal to 1. For example, these numbers do not mean anything, but I'm just trying to explain it to you guys in a way that you understand the heights. Okay, here we said there is no alpha 1 activity, so there is unopposed beta activity. Now what does that mean? That means that our diastolic blood pressure will take a massive dip here, right? Now this is reversed. How is it reversed? Here we said that, for example, beta 2 is 1 and alpha 1 is 1, but now there is no 1 activity, so the dip is going to be, this height is going to be equal to 2. So now this drop is more than this drop is more than this increase here. So what will we see? We will see a slight drop in our mean arterial pressure. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so once we give alpha blocker, the situation is reversed. Okay, now let's move forward and talk about phenylephrine. Okay, in our last lecture I did not speak about phenylephrine, so let me first explain what it does. It is a pure alpha agonist, which means it has no beta activity. So let's write down our thing. Alpha 1, yes. Beta 1, no. Beta 2, no. Okay, let's get back to our graphs. So before we give alpha 1, let's draw our graphs. Alpha 1, beta 1, don't forget to write these down, they make it super easy. And we said before we give phenylephrine, right? So there is no beta activity, let's just cross that out. So when there is no beta activity and there's purely alpha 1 activity, we will see an increase in systolic blood pressure. Again, no beta 2 activity, no vasodilation, right? So when there is no vasodilation, instead there's vasoconstriction, so we will see an increase in our diastolic blood pressure and therefore an increase in our mean arterial pressure. Okay, I hope that is clear. Now let's move forward and talk about what happens to our graph after we give phenylephrine. After we give alpha blocker. Okay, so there is alpha 1, write down, beta 1, and alpha 1, beta 2. Similarly, no activity. Okay, now there's one thing that I would like to talk about here. How I think of alpha blocker in this case would be that after giving the alpha blockers, there will still be some alpha receptors that are not blocked. For example, we have 100% of alpha receptors, right? So I'm sure after giving alpha blocker, it will not affect all the receptors. It might affect like 70%, 80%, maybe 60%. So there will always be some receptors that are not blocked. Okay, so because of those unblocked receptors, we will see a slight increase in our systolic blood pressure. It will be less than the one we saw here, but there will still be some increase because of those unblocked alpha 1 receptors, right? Similarly, when we come down to our diastolic blood pressure, there will still be some receptors that would be unblocked, be it 20%, 10%, 5%, how much ever you would like to think, but it will cause some increase in our diastolic blood pressure. As there is unopposed alpha 1 activity, there is no beta activity. So we will see a slight increase in our mean arterial pressure. It will be less compared to when there is no alpha blocker, but there will be some increase. Now what we saw in our epinephrine case is that the activity gets reversed, right? But here we saw that because there is no beta activity, the effect after alpha blockers would not be reversed. Instead, it would be reduced. It would not be reversed. In fact, it would be reduced. The effect is going to be less compared to when there is no alpha blocker, but there will be some effect. Okay, so I hope that is clear to you. I hope it makes sense to you. If you want me to explain it further, please feel free to comment in the comment section below. If it helped you in any way, shape or form, please feel free to subscribe and let me know of your thoughts on this lecture. Thank you and take care.